While penetration testing is interesting, we cannot attack a target without a battle plan. So, planning ensures that the penetration testing follows the sequential orders of steps to achieve the desired outcome, so which is identified vulnerabilities. Each phase outlines and describes what is required before moving on to the next steps. This ensures that all details about the work and the target are gathered efficiently and that the penetration tester has a clear understanding of the task ahead. So there are seven phases of penetration testing here. The first is, let me write here. So the first is pre-engagement here. Pre-engagement. I will talk about them later in this lecture. Actually, we don't need to write this, right? So the second is information gathering. Third is threat modeling. Fourth is vulnerability analysis, and fifth is exploitation, post-exploitation, and the last is report writing. So each of these phases will be covered in more detail in this lecture. Let's start with pre-engagement here. During the pre-engagement phase, key personnel are selected. These individuals are key to providing information, coordinating resources, and helping testers understand the scope, breadth, and rules of engaging in the assessment. So, this phase also covers legal requirements, which typically include a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, and consulting service agreement, CSA. So we first need to obtain permissions, then rules engagement, then non-disclosure agreement, and NDA. So the non-disclosure agreement is signed agreement between client and provider. So rules of engagement defines the scope of the penetration test, and obtain permission, so written permission for persons in authority, and lastly begin penetration testing. So the NDA non-disclosure agreement is a legal agreement that specifies the penetration tester will not share or hold onto any sensitive or property information that is encountering during the assessment. Companies usually sign these agreements with cybersecurity companies, who will in turn sign it with employees working on the project. In some cases, companies sign these agreements directly with the penetration testers from the company carrying out the project. The scope of penetration tests defines the systems that the testers can and cannot hack or test. To ensure that the penetration tester remains within legal boundaries, he or she must acquire legal permission in writing from the client or company who is requesting the services. Additionally, the penetration tester must provide an NDA. So the agreement between the ethical hacker and the client also defines sensitive systems as well as testing times and which system requires special testing windows. So it's incredibly important for penetration testers to pay close attention to the scope of penetration test and where they are testing in order to always stay within the testing constraints. So in NDA agreement here, let me write another launch here. So, oops, sorry. So we have questions to help you define the scope of your penetration test here. So here, penetration testing, testing pre-engagement, questions here. So the question is, what size, what is the size or class of your external network? For this is for network pen test here. So then what is the here what is the size class of your internal network? Actual networks here, actual not networks, right? Network here, it network pen test also. So what is the purpose and goal of the penetration test? What is the purpose and goal of the penetration test? This is the applicable to any form of penetration testing, form of pen test here. And how many pages does the web application have? How many pages does web application have? Web pen test, web application pen test here. And lastly, how many user inputs or forms does the web application have? How many user inputs or forms does the web application have? This is also a web application pen test. So this is not an extensive list of pre-engagement questions, and all the engagements should be given to ensure that you ask all important questions, so you don't underscope or underprice the engagement. Now, what we have understood the legal limitation stages in penetration testing, let's move on to learn about the information gathering path and its importance. Information gathering. So most types of penetration tests involve an information gathering phase. Let's check, is this recording sound? Yes. So most types of penetration tests involve an information gathering phase, so which is vital to ensuring that the testers have access to key information that will assist them in conducting their assessment. So this is not the case in black box approach, which we will deal with it later. Most information gathering is gone from web-based application penetration testing, so the questions involved are generally geared towards web-based applications, such as what platform is the application is written. Let's write this as well. So this is the information gathering questions here. So here, so what platform is the application written in, and does the application use any application programming interface? Application use any API, actually APIs here. The application may be used more than one API. Is the app behind web WAF here? This is the web application firewall. Web app firewall. How does the application handle authentication? How does the application handle out here? And does the application use Active Directory credentials to authenticate users? Does the application use Active Dir credentials to out users here? I'm rating it small here. So do users access this application in any other way through the web URL? Is the application internet facing or internal? Does the application serve any sensitive information or system access? So this is the questions. Understanding the target is very important before any sort of attack as a penetration tester, as it helps in creating a profile of the potential target, recovering user credentials, login accounts at this phase, for instance, will be vital to later phases of penetration testing, as it will help us gain access to vulnerable systems and networks. Next, we will discuss the essentials of threat modeling. So threat modeling is a process used to assist testers and defenders to better understand the threats that inspire the assessments, or the threats that the application or most prone to. So this data is then used to help penetration testers emulate, assess, and address the most common threats that the organization, network, or application faces. Having understood the threats an organization faces, the next step is to perform a vulnerability analysis assessment on the assets to further determine the risk rating and severity.